It was raining the night Emily sat on the marble steps of the mansion that was no longer hers. Her hair clung to her cheeks, her trembling hands resting over the tiny swell of her stomach, where a fragile heartbeat fought to exist in a world that had just shattered around her. The heavy iron gates closed behind her with a hollow clang, sealing the end of everything she had believed in: love, loyalty, family. Moments ago, her husband, the man she once thought was her forever, had thrown her out for a woman half her age. And as thunder rumbled across the dark sky, Emily realized she was now both homeless and pregnant, abandoned by the one person who had promised to protect her. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and the power of second chances, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories, because today's story is one that will break your heart and then slowly mend it again. Emily and Daniel were once the couple everyone envied. He was a self-made millionaire who had risen from nothing, and she was the woman who had stood beside him through every sleepless night, every failure, every tear. When Daniel had nothing, Emily cooked simple meals on a single gas burner in their tiny rented flat. She took extra work as a part-time teacher while he struggled to build his startup. They had promised each other that no matter what life threw at them, they would face it hand in hand. And for a time, they did. But money changes people, and success has a way of revealing who someone truly is. When Daniel's company began to flourish, he built a mansion, hired assistants, and surrounded himself with people who fed his ego. Among them was a young secretary named Vanessa, charming, ambitious, and eager to climb any ladder that could elevate her life. She was everything Emily was not: bold, flirtatious, and hungry for attention. What began as harmless smiles soon turned into late-night calls, business trips that lasted longer than planned, and eventually, betrayal. When Emily confronted him, Daniel didn't even deny it. He stood in the middle of their grand living room, his expression cold, and told her that she no longer fit into his new life. He said she was too simple, too emotional, and that Vanessa understood him in ways she never could. The final blow came when she told him she was pregnant. His reaction was not joy, but irritation. He accused her of trying to trap him, and by the next morning, she was gone. Emily found herself wandering the streets with only a small suitcase and a life growing inside her. She had no family nearby, and most of Daniel's friends had abandoned her out of fear of choosing the wrong side. For nights, she stayed at a cheap motel, crying herself to sleep as morning sickness and heartbreak tore through her. She often sat by the window, watching couples walk by, wondering how love could turn into cruelty so quickly. But life has a way of leading us to people who are meant to help us rise again. One afternoon, when she fainted outside a cafe from exhaustion, an elderly woman named Margaret stopped to help her. Margaret owned a small flower shop nearby, and when she learned Emily's story, she didn't hesitate to take her in. "No one deserves to be alone when they're carrying hope inside them," she said softly. For the first time in months, Emily felt a warmth that wasn't from pity, but genuine kindness. Margaret became more than just a savior, she became family. Under her care, Emily began working at the flower shop, arranging bouquets and delivering orders around town. The scent of fresh roses and daisies filled her days, and slowly, her broken heart began to heal. The customers adored her gentle smile, and her small bump became a symbol of resilience to those who knew her story. Every evening, she would sit by the window, one hand on her belly, whispering promises to her unborn child, promises of love, strength, and a life free from cruelty. Months passed, and Emily gave birth to a baby boy she named Noah. He had her eyes and Daniel's chin, a painful reminder of what she had lost, yet also the greatest gift she had ever received. With every cry, every tiny laugh, Noah gave her a reason to live again. She worked tirelessly, sometimes late into the night, to provide for him. And though money was scarce, their little home overflowed with warmth. Fate, however, had one more twist in store for her. One day, as she was delivering flowers to a corporate event, she met a man named Richard Halden, a quiet, dignified billionaire known for his humility and philanthropy. He was Daniel's biggest business rival, though Emily didn't know it at first. Richard noticed the grace in her eyes, the strength in her voice, and the kindness that radiated through her every action. They spoke briefly, and he later visited the flower shop himself, always finding excuses to buy something. Over time, their friendship deepened, though Emily never once mentioned her past. Richard saw something rare in her: honesty, simplicity, and a soul uncorrupted by greed. When he learned about her struggles, he offered her a position as the head of floral design for his company's events department. It was more than a job, it was a door to a new life. Emily accepted it with gratitude, never knowing that her quiet perseverance had already begun to change Richard's heart. Years passed, and Emily flourished. She became well-known in business circles for her grace and creativity. Noah grew up surrounded by love, unaware of the bitterness his father had once shown. Daniel, on the other hand, had lost everything. Vanessa had left him after draining his accounts and selling off parts of his company. The empire he had built on arrogance and betrayal crumbled, leaving him with nothing but regret. He tried to find Emily, but she had vanished from his world completely. Meanwhile, Richard's health began to fail. He called Emily to his bedside one afternoon, his voice weak but steady. He told her that in her, he had found the one thing his wealth could never buy: genuine kindness. He revealed that he had rewritten his will, leaving her and Noah everything he owned. Emily tried to refuse, but he simply smiled and said, "You deserve it more than anyone I know. Promise me you'll use it to make the world gentler for your son." When he passed, Emily wept, not for the fortune she inherited, but for the man who had believed in her when no one else did. When the news broke that Richard Halden's entire fortune had gone to a single mother, the world was stunned. Daniel, living in debt and shame, saw the story on television. The woman he had once abandoned was now the heir to his rival's empire. The image of Emily, holding Noah's hand and speaking with quiet dignity at a charity gala, haunted him. He reached out once, sending a letter full of apologies and pleas for forgiveness. Emily never responded. Instead, she used her wealth to open shelters for abandoned women and children, people like her who had once been left with nothing. Years later, as she watched Noah walk across the stage to receive his college diploma, Emily's eyes filled with tears. Life had taken everything from her once, but it had also given her back so much more. She had learned that pain can either destroy you or shape you, and she had chosen to be shaped, not broken. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support helps us tell more stories of strength, love, and second chances that remind us it's never too late to rise again.